Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Morning, this is Julia Talbot at DFSS. You are here to attend the Hotel or Motel Room Support Service Program RFP applicant webinar. Joining me today will be Christine Riley of the Homeless Division, and who's the program director extraordinaire on this RFP. Just a little housekeeping. We are going to be, due to the volume of participants in just standard operating, we're all putting you on mute. We ask that you submit your questions via the question box in the GoToWebinar interface, and that we will respond to the questions after going through all of our slides. And then also, please feel free to use the question box to notify us if you're having any technical issues hearing, etc. Just like trying to get this party started, I'm going to turn this agenda over to Christine. We have a lot of really great stuff to tell you about this RFP, and she is just the woman to do it. Christine?
Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Thank you for joining us on this webinar. My name, again, as Julia stated, and thank you, Julia, for the introduction and your help with this, is Christine Riley. I'm the Director of Homeless Prevention Policy and Planning with Homeless Services. So on our agenda today, we're going to talk about the purpose of this RFP. We're very excited. This is the first time with regards to this overarching system-wide possibility of us doing this. With different populations, a different population. We're going to talk about the background, or the why we're doing this. Information about the scope, program description, selection criteria, the timeline, which is very important. And then Julia is going to help us out with the technical assistance aspect of this for you all, e-procurement and questions. So please feel free at any time, if you have any questions in regards to this presentation or the RFP that you've read, to place questions in the box, and we will get to that at the end. So again, the purpose of this RFP is to really find organizations who's able to provide the service component as well as fiscal component of this hotel or motel support service program. And it's for individuals and couples. Again, individuals and couples, unless, and you'll see in a later slide, is for a DV family. But primarily for individuals and couples experiencing homelessness. We call it the Hotel Motel Room Support Service Program because it's not just putting clients into shelter, but it's also providing support service, just as if, into hotel rooms, but it's also providing those services as if they were in a shelter. So there may be case management. And this is a response to, of course, the coronavirus pandemic and part of our winter contingency plan. We are still down some beds in our system. So we want to make sure we have different options to help those who are most vulnerable. Next slide, please. As many of you know, prior to the pandemic, our shelter system operated about 3,300 beds. We did work with our partners throughout the city to set up some alternate shelter facilities and decompress our existing shelter system. And this, of course, as you all know, was for social distancing. Early in the pandemic, we had at some 1.5 alternate shelters, 700 beds, which were congregate spaces. We've been in conversation with many of you. Congregate spaces are not the best, especially in a pandemic. So with these alternate shelters, they were originally envisioned as disaster response. So we were able to house those who were coming into the shelter system in different facilities, which was able to allow for social distancing. Next slide, please. We partnered, of course, not only with our shelters, but also our partners at CDPH to implement best practices. As you all know, the goal of this was to keep the infection rate down and to provide as much assistance through PPE. Some shelters were able to put in room dividers, bed dividers, plexiglass on office furniture, and also add hand washing stations. Throughout the last summer, this summer, I apologize, we were able to bring back approximately 400 beds under new guidance from CDPH. And also, we wanted to be able to provide some kind of health care to our shelter partners. And that's where CDPH was so important in this effort. They were able to create the shelter-based service teams with Lawndale and Heartland, and now all of our shelter partners are connected to shelter-based service teams. And we, our shelter partners have worked with these teams and bring more beds back online. So now we have a gap of approximately 300 beds compared to pre-COVID levels. The goals of this RFP, as I mentioned, is to continue the decompression of our existing shelter system. We're still not out of the woods. In the hotel and motel rooms, whichever you decide to partner with, they're safe. It's individual rooms, or if they're couples, they can stay in a room. They have their own bathroom. And the couples were the clients or the DV families can be referred by outreach agencies and Salvation Army. And so again, this is very important. And we want to make sure that we have additional space and availability for people to remain safe in this continuous pandemic. Next slide. The target population again are those who are literally homeless, currently unsheltered, primarily older adults 65 and older. And this is just, it includes these population. People of any age with serious underlying medical conditions, again, unsheltered, survivors of domestic violence, and this population, again, may include families. So the program requirements, and please at any time put your questions in. Part of this will be your agency securing agreements with hotels or motel sites. You can do this in blocks of rooms, meaning find one hotel, they give you a floor or a certain number of rooms. And also, you can also operate as a scattered site. So this means if you find multiple hotels where you have a couple here at a certain location, a few at another location, you can also do that. But you must apply for a minimum of 15 hotel or motel rooms. You can't apply for 5, you can't apply for 10. There must be a minimum of 15. If you want to apply for 200, go for it. We're all for it. Again, you must pay for the hotel motel directly or with a subcontractor. And what I mean by a subcontractor is there are partners or organizations, companies who do negotiations with hotels. So that's a possibility as well. So when we say or with a subcontractor, that's what that is referring to. Funds can be used to pay for cleaning or repairs of rooms. Facilities must be in the city of Chicago. We're not looking for any hotels or motels outside of the city of Chicago. And you can also negotiate with the hotel if they have some non-guest space for staff, case managers. And again, this is contingent upon your agreements. So that means in your blocks of room, if you designate one of those guest rooms as a staff office, that's something that you'll have to talk to the hotel about. If the hotel has a communal space, like if they want to give you the whole hotel, or like they have a lunchroom area or a restaurant area, you would also negotiate that. Some of the essential services, as I mentioned before, this is going to be run as shelter. So case management, it can be on-site or remote. Remote for the scattered site, because sometimes it's not always possible to have a staff on duty at multiple hotels if you're a scattered site. offer 3 meals per day. Again, this is important because it's running as a shelter program. So you will work with your agency to see how you can offer 3 meals per day. Client supports, bus cards, hygiene kits, so forth. Coverage for blocks of rooms. So if you have blocks of rooms at a particular hotel or motel, we do expect for 24/7 shelter staff coverage with daily room checks. We're not looking for the hotel staff to cover to cover your clients, because your clients may have questions outside of the hotel, but we want to make sure that your staff has eyes on these blocks of rooms. Coverage for scatter site is different. It can be an on-call option with a minimum of 1 time per week for visits. Again, if you have multiple locations, we know that it's very difficult to have staff at every location. Agencies must accept referrals from the Salvation Army, outreach partners, or for the Illinois Domestic Violence Hotline. Next slide, please. So the anticipated term of the contract, again, we're very excited. There is a voucher program that's going on in our domestic violence community, which we're very grateful, but we're opening this up to other populations. So with this contract, we're anticipating awarding multiple contracts. So it's not just going to be one awardee. And also it will, as our other contracts, operate on a reimbursement basis. There's no advances given. The term is for 1 year, January 1st to December 31st, with up to 2 extensions and not to exceed 1 year in length. We do say 1 year, January 1st to December 31st, because if for some reason down the line there's more funding, we don't want to switch up and trying to go through a whole nother process of extending your contract. So this is the term of the contract, and we currently have funding until September 2022. But as it states, if we have additional funding, it becomes available, your contract can be extended. So that's why we have that flexibility in the terms of the contract. And we will only issue additional releases for funding if services are needed. So funding will be awarded in 4 to 6 month increments. So again, this is part of our winter contingency plan. But again, if we need more time with you in these hotel motels, we can extend. We are seeking agencies who will begin their program on January 1st. This is going to be a quick turnaround, people. So applications are due on December 16th at noon. We will review right away. We hope to let you know right away to get this contract executed. So again, the terms of the contract is January 1st to December 31st, with up to 2 extensions, each not to exceed 1 year in length. So the goals and outcomes. So again, we are seeking people with evidence of strong past performance. And these indicators could include percentage and number of households whose exit shelter to permanent or more stable housing, and average length of shelter stay. We want to make sure there's monitoring and recognize intermediate progress toward the above performance indicators. DFSS, we also intend to track output metrics, so the percentage and number of households who complete CES assessments and the bed utilization. So we want to make sure these beds are utilized. And again, this is running as a shelter program, although in hotel motel, so you are expected to complete CES assessments or any other housing resources that you can provide to these clients. Next slide, please. We want to make sure in this selection criteria that you demonstrate a clear understanding of the target population, their needs and challenges. Define your services to be provided. So please be clear in that to addressing the needs and achieving the desired outcomes of this target population. Your ability to implement public health guidance to protect clients and reduce the spread of COVID-19. So if you provide in your offices, in your shelter, to your employees, to your staff, if you're not running a shelter, if you supply hand sanitizer, if mask, so we still want you to enforce those public safety guidelines, masking, washing hands. So if you need to post that in the rooms that you block for individuals, please do that. Your proposed program must reflect the core values of our continuum, including housing first, harm reduction, trauma-informed care, reasonable accommodation, be culturally competent, non-discriminatory, and developmentally appropriate practices. So if you're working with youth, you want to make sure you have appropriate policies and procedures in place. And also last, you want the ability to coordinate with partners, including the hotel or motel management. Also, when one of the questions that may come up is an additional partner may be a catering service. So if you yourself cannot, fix lunch, breakfast, dinner, so forth, you can also subcontract with a catering vendor as well, who would drop off food to the hotel or motel. Next slide, please. In regards to your performance, outcomes, and quality, please, in your application, demonstrate evidence of past performance, as I mentioned before, and any accomplishments in providing services. This is service-based. We want to make sure people in these hotel or motel rooms are provided different services as if they were in shelter. We don't want to just put them there and leave them alone. We want to make sure they still get services to move to more stable housing. That is the goal in the end. Have relevant systems and processes needed to gather and assess client feedback, track and report performance and outcome measures, including the use of HMIS. And then you have relevant systems and processes needed to collect and store key participant performance data. Next slide, please. About your organizational capacity. This, like I said, it's going to be a quick turnaround. So you need to have a plan for an ability to scale staffing. Of course, we know there's going to be time to hire and so forth. And then you can talk about in your application what's your proposed timeline. We want this program to begin being funded January 1st. That you have qualified staff responsible for program oversight and management. If you want to also attach your human resource policies and procedures, make sure you respond to the questions that are attached to the RFP. We want to make sure hiring happens in the timely manner because this is a short-term, as of now, program. Have adequate systems and processes to support monitoring program expenditures as always, and fiscal controls. As I mentioned before, this is on a reimbursement basis. Working with target population, your expertise, we always value that, and have relevant capabilities or infrastructure needed to serve this group. We were very intentional in writing this RFP. We brought together some of our providers, outreach providers, shelter providers as well, to just talk about some of the things they would like to see. So hopefully this RFP reflects some of that. And also your organization reflects and engages the diverse people of the community that it serves. We want to make sure that you have the fiscal capacity to implement this proposed program. Again, it's on a reimbursement basis. Therefore, you need to have some funds up front to be able to start the program off. We will work diligently with your staff to get your scope and your budget approved so that you can start vouchering. You have a system. We want to make sure you have a system of tracking program expenditures, again, and vouchering. And we want you to voucher in a timely manner. That is so important to us. We want to make sure that you're vouchering once your contract is executed, that you're vouchering every single month so that you can get your money back. That's important to us. You may leverage in-kind contributions to support your total program administrative costs, and also demonstrate reasonable implementation costs and funding requests. A proposed budget supports the proposed scope of work and work plan. Next slide, please. In regards to attachments, you must attach any reports, studies, or other documentation to show performance towards reaching these program goals, as well as resumes for key staff who are overseeing the program. And also, you must attach your organization's budget for this program. That's very important. We need to see how your budget is going to look in regards to staffing this program. So for budgets, again, the term of this contract is January 1st to December 31st, with up to 2 extensions, each not to exceed 1 year in length. We, again, anticipate awarding multiple awards from this RFP, depending on the size of the proposed program. The minimum anticipated funding for this program is $1,800,000. Again, that's the minimum. So if there's more funding that becomes available, we will work with you if you're awarded to extend. Administrative costs must be capped at 10%, or agencies, if you have approved indirect, you must provide that letter to us with your budget. We want you to submit a budget for 9 months. As I mentioned earlier, we have funding right now up until September of 2022. So the budget that you will submit is for 9 months of services. We want to make sure that you pay attention to any budget instructions in the RFP. Be thoughtful and inclusive when developing your budget, and apply for your actual cost. We know right now that hiring is not at the best, but we want to make sure, so if you want to hire staff temporarily at a higher cost, please put that, because we need to know what that cost is. Use the reasonable cost question on the application to discuss how you determine the costs reflected in the budget. So we really want you to put down what you think it will cost your staff, your agency, to run this program. So common errors that we've found, common mistakes we've seen on budgets are the fringes. Make sure you check your calculations. Supplies, make sure you put the actual cost of the supplies that you think. They're frequently under or over budgeted for. So make sure you really think about, as I mentioned, you're going to be having, providing PPE, possible hand sanitizer, signage for rooms, and everything that you think will be needed to be able to support clients in these hotel and motel rooms. Put your budget costs in the appropriate column. We've been notified and we've worked with agencies who put their budgets amounts in the match column as opposed to the right column, and also show your match. Next slide, please. So I think this may be my final slide before moving to Julia, but selection and transition timeline. So today is the pre-proposal webinar. Applications are due Thursday, December 16th at noon. I am going to repeat this, people. Thursday, December 16th at noon. Please, 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 in my James Brown voice to you, do not start a day before. Do not press send at 12 noon on December 16th. Please take the time and look through this RFP, apply for this RFP so that you have enough time to correct errors, that you have enough time to contact the help desk for e-procurement if needed. We need you to adhere to this timeline, because we cannot, after 12 noon hits on December 16th, we cannot do anything if you have not applied. If it has not accepted your application, there is nothing that we can do. So I'm begging you again, please, please, please make sure you give yourself enough time, look over the RFP, apply to the questions, answer the questions, and give yourself a couple days before the due date. Hit that send button. If you get an error message, you have time to call. Our last CDGA process, this was an issue. We cannot help you if you're hitting the send button at 11 a.m., 11:30, 11:59. Applications are due on Thursday, December 16th at 12 noon. Again, Thursday, December 16th at 12 noon. Next
Christina,
slide.
is that your favorite date?
It's my favorite day and my favorite time, Julia. 12 noon.
You know, my favorite time is really 9 a.m. because that's when you should be hitting send. Anyway,
Yes.
thank you so much. You know what? We have had a couple of questions have come into the question box that I thought we might take a minute to just to knock these out. There are two questions that are basically around can people or can organizations or applicants secure apartments for temporary use instead of using hotel or motel rooms?
We want to do, oh, is that the fine? I'm sorry, I'm trying to see
so
these questions.
It's more or less the, yeah, we have two questions that are basically, could we secure apartments for temporary use? Could we use an organization's build as well as a motel room? We have a building with individual apartments. Like, what is the feeling about that? So that's the first question.
Well, the thing with hotel, again, we're trying to, I guess I want clarity. Are they talking about putting one or two people in an apartment so it will still be non-congregate? Or are they trying to put a lot of people in the apartment? We need this to be non-congregate. And also, our focus is hotel and motel because there's a set amount that you'll negotiate with the hotel and motel. So
it would be non-congregate. So it would be like, say I have a family and I have an apartment. Can I put the family into an apartment or the couple rather into an apartment as opposed to a hotel or motel?
I'll have to get back to you on that. I know our preference through this is hotel motel, and I can respond through the FAQ that we'll develop after this.
So the second question was about why, if the contract is for 1 year, why are we asking for a 9-month budget? And I think I can answer that in that this is sort of a city thing, in that we have the funding for 9 months, and so that's why we're asking for a 9-month budget, even though a year budget is, maybe seems a little bit more logical, but generally speaking, it will make it easier down the road in awarding contracts if we have the contract budget is actually set up for the amount of money in the term that we actually have the money in hand for.
Right. And also with the contract term being, again, as I mentioned earlier, with the contract term being 1 year, if there's additional funding that we received, we won't have an issue with reissuing another contract. That contract is already for that 1 year. And again, it has that extension flexibility.
Well, you can amend a contract for 3 things. You get 2 time amendments, but you can really amend for money. You can do that all the time. The third question is, what would determine what an outreach agency is for the referrals other than Salvation
Army? An outreach agency that works with homeless individuals? I guess I need clarification. If you can put clarification. Someone who currently works with the unsheltered population.
We'll go with that until we get more information. So if it's, if it is, can people get a referral from a different outreach agency?
I guess I need clarity on what the definition of outreach they're thinking about. Is this outreach? These are out when we say outreach, it's outreach in regards to those who are working with individuals who are unsheltered on the street. They're doing CES assessments, so that's outreach agency.
I think the clarifying information is, can walk-ups without 311 system be acceptable?
If they're working with an outreach agency, It's just not individuals. So the agency, I guess I'm still confused. Walk-ups meaning, are they working with the outreach agency and seeking this type of shelter, or seeking shelter?
I think that the general question would be, can people get into this program without going through the Salvation Army?
Yes.
Or is the Salvation Army the only kind of funnel that you have to be in to get?
There'll be referrals through outreach agencies, Salvation Army, or through the DV hotline, as stated earlier.
Let's just go with that answer. So as Chris, thank you so much, Christine. And as she indicated, after this, and just to reiterate some stuff that has been going on in the chat questions, that this webinar is being recorded. We are going to post a recording to the DFSS YouTube channel. A link and a copy of the PowerPoint will be posted to the DFSS website either today or tomorrow if I can get it done, or early next week because of the holiday. So we're gonna that's the how things are gonna do. Subsequent to this RFP, we will be putting together a list of all the questions and our answers. It will be posted as an amendment to the RFP document. And that amendment, I will be going through, it's two of the things I like to explain in the glorious e-procurement system. That amendment is you actually have to accept the amendment as part of doing your application. So as Christine kind of talked about a little, she was setting me up in a good way. I'm Julia Talbot. I manage the RFP process for the department, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about the e-procurement system and how to do have a successful application experience with our e-procurement system and with the city and DFSS. Congratulations, welcome to the bureaucracy. If you've never done business with the City of Chicago, you're going to need to register into the iSupplier/e-procurement system as soon as possible. iSupplier is the applicant end. So vendors or potential vendors set up accounts in iSupplier, and they manage those accounts in iSupplier. iSupplier, though, is what you use to access e-procurement, which is where our RFP and contracting documents and stuff live. So you need iSupplier to access e-procurement. We tend to use the two words sort of interchangeably, although that's, I guess, giving you the long definition of that. We spend a certain amount of time, we spend a lot of time actually looking at our RFP and developing the scopes, developing the application packets, developing our questions, developing our evaluation tools and our selection criteria. It all aligns with itself. And it's not just random. It might seem random, but it's not. I always suggest to people that you review those things. You review the RFP narratives. You review the application questions. They all align. The application questions come out of the scope. They are aligned directly to the selection criteria, and the selection criteria is what we use, very literally, for our evaluation instruments and tools. So if you're having a question about direction, the information in the RFP, use the information as guidance in formulating your answers, and use that to inform your direction, your program design. I know that the RFPs are dense documents. They are not always the most exciting reads, but they are very informative. You should really be able to get a lot of information out of what we're looking for. I do like to tell people to carefully review the selection criteria and make sure that your answer probably aligns with that criteria, because that's where we really talk about what our priorities are. In terms of making the actual physical application into e-procurement, there's a 4,000 character limit, which includes punctuation and spaces for each question. So there will be a question such as, what is your name? There's 4,000 character limit for that answer. What is the meaning of life? You get 4,000 characters, which includes punctuation and spaces. E-procurement is kind of mean in that it will not tell you when you have reached that character limit. Also, when you hit send on your application, you will not see it again. So I always tell people to do this application offline and load it into e-procurement so that You can do your character counts in the word processing software package of your choice, and you can save your good words for whatever reason, if only so that you know what you applied for and what you have said. I can't even tell you the number of people who get through the contracting process and then are like, hey, could you send me my application back because you don't have it. Once you press send, that application is pretty much gone. I don't know why, but there you go. E-procurement is built on an Oracle platform, and it works best with the Internet Explorer browser, which nobody uses. It works just fine on Chrome, Firefox, Safari, pretty much all of them. If your computer is having an issue and it's just not getting along with e-procurement and that you're finding it to be glitchy, I do tell people to, fire up that one Internet Explorer app that you might still have and try it on that. This is a system that's been in operation for about 4 years. It really doesn't go down, and I have never seen it crash. And we've had RFPs where like literally 300 or 400 people are applying. If there is no, like as Christine was saying about the deadline, it cuts you off at 12. If you are working on your application real close to the deadline, and all of a sudden, zoop, it just goes away, that is you missing the deadline. And once you have missed the deadline, we cannot accept late applications except to reopen the entire RFP and do the whole process again. So we generally really want you to get your stuff in on time. Don't use the back button on your browser in the e-procurement atmosphere because it will, again, be really mean to you. It will pretend that it's doing stuff, but then when you go to save or save it, it will give you an error message, and in fact, everything that you have done since using that back button will not be saved. So those are like that's my pro tip, which I still need to take because I forget and use the back button all the time. You can submit your application and later amend it up until the due date. So say you're like, hey, I've finished, or hey, I want to just submit as a placeholder, or hey, I want to practice submitting. You can do that. And then if you're like, hey, I forgot to put in this resume, I want to change my answer, whatever, you can pull your submitted application back up until that December 16th, 2021, 12 noon due date. I do tell people to avoid the rush and cause some mishaps by submitting early. Plan on your submission taking 30 to 60 minutes because you'll see when I go through my slides, it's not just like a press send and whoosh, it's gone. It's more like press send and wait through 5 more screens. And then maybe it's gone after you've answered a few questions. If you have late applications, as we've talked about incessantly, will not be accepted. If you have questions about e-procurement or you're having a hard time, give me a call or email me. I try to answer all of my emails and phone calls around e-procurement stuff within 24 hours. You can reach out to Christine or Natalia, I believe, if Christine is out. For the program stuff, I will have no help. I will not be helpful to you about the program stuff because I don't know. So I'm always, if you're asking a program question, I'm going to just submit it to Christine Esper. There is an e-procurement hotline. They have a slightly higher level of access than I do on stuff. So if you're having a real technical problem, you might want to call out to them. That's 312-744-HELP. They work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. They generally speaking will get back to everybody within 48 hours. You can call us both if you want, but I will refer to them if you're really having a significant problem, just because they do have a higher level of access into the system in terms of fixing stuff or troubleshooting. If you are a new agency, just a heads up, these are things that we tend to require out of all of our applicants, which is based, so you can start gathering this stuff now, right? So like your articles of incorporation and any amended articles, your IRS letter or your 501c3 number, your DUNS number, your CCR number, and then a certificate of good standing letter with the state of Illinois. You can send us screenshots. If you have questions about any of these things, you can definitely call me and I'm happy to tell you where to get them, how, why, what workarounds we might have if you have them. You must be licensed. The one thing that we are very, very firm about is that IRF affirmation letter. We can't enter into a contract with you if you've just applied for your 501c3. We actually have to have, you have to be able to do business. And so we need we need some sort of IRS letter saying that you are a designated business of some sort to be able to enter into a contract. So that is the one thing. If that is outstanding, please get yourself a fiscal agent and do the application that way, as opposed to sending us like your letter that you've submitted for this and you're waiting on the IRS. That generally is, the IRS takes too long to turn stuff around. So you really need to be able to do business before you're making this application. So that's just a heads up on that. Let's see. So technical assistance, again, if you have questions, you can call me, you can call customers, you can call the helpline, you can do customer support. If you are really more of a visual learner, you can, there's training materials available online. You can, if you want to know about other RFPs that we're putting up, this one is the only one that we have up right now, but our DFSS webpage, we always post the information, and when any of our RFPs go up, there will be some stuff coming out next year, I know, because of ARP. So I really encourage, if you're interested in working with DFSS under a number of different programs, do check the webpage frequently. Now we're going to go on to the two things that I really like to go over with people in terms of how to accept an amendment and then how to make your submission. So how to accept an amendment. We are going to, we do an amendment to basically correct any errors we have found in the RFP, but more frequently and commonly, we are doing the frequently asked questions from this webinar. We're posting those as an amendment. As part of the e-procurement system, you're going to have to accept that amendment actually to be able to either start or to continue to work in your application. So here I'm going to show you some screenshots about how you do that. So the RFP you're interested in has been amended. In order to start an application, you would need to acknowledge and accept the amendment first. And then, so here, you're going to, if you look for your application, you're going to see this little warning. If you want to start an application, you would do this create quote and then hit go. But just to kind of get the ball rolling, even if you've already started an application, you'll be getting this stuff too. You would click, if you want to get everything going, you would do this create quote and click go. You can also click on this thing blue of view amendment history, and that's going to bring you to slides or screens rather, where you can see the amendment as well. Basically anything in e-procurement that is blue, if you click on it, it will take you to something else, and that's how you get around using that back button. So once you do say that you haven't started, you create quote, you click go, and then you're going to be thrown into here to the acceptance and acknowledgement process. Here in the show all details, this 50, if you click on this document number, that's going to take you to the RFP itself. Here is the name of the RFP. Here's an amendment description. So every amendment I do, I have to write like a little one sentence saying like what's in the amendment. So this is the heads up of what you need to know or what the amendment's going to be about. And then to review the changes, you're going to click on these little eyeglasses or the infinity number, and or the infinity sign rather. And so when you have done all of these things and you have kind of familiarized yourself with the amendment, you're going to be ready to acknowledge the amendment, which you're going to do by hitting the Acknowledge Amendments button, which is either on the upper or lower right-hand side. So when you click the Acknowledging Amendment button, you are acknowledging that you are aware of the changes made to the RFP in the amendment, and that's rather important for us. From there, you're going to be thrown to this slide where you are going to accept the terms and conditions of the RFP and also acknowledge the changes made to the RFP amendment document. You're going to click this very, very small button, and then you're going to hit the Acknowledge button again on the upper right-hand side. And that will take you to this screen where you confirm. You confirm that you have acknowledged your amendment, because we like to really make sure that you understand that with the acknowledgement and confirmation of the amendment, that you are holding yourselves responsible for the information contained in the amendment. So if we changed the date, if we said you have to, do everything in blue font, you've read that in the amendment and now you know. And so if you came back and were like, I didn't know, we're like, hey, you just clicked 4 boxes about acknowledging and accepting all this stuff in the amendment, you actually did know, or you said no. So that is how we do that. And after you click the indication, your confirmation of the acknowledgement, you then get a confirmation page. And so, and that is, then you go to this one last thing, terms and conditions, where you accept the terms and conditions. You click this tiny box again, you hit accept on the upper or lower right-hand side, and then you're done. You finally are done. So it takes really 5 steps for you to fully acknowledge, confirm, and accept the amendment process in e-procurement. And then, we probably are all like better people, or will be reincarnated at a higher level now. The second thing I wanted to talk about is how to submit an application in e-procurement. As I indicated, it's not just a click and whoosh, it's gone. When you are ready to submit, start by saving your draft one last time. Actually, you probably don't have to, but I compulsively save my drafts all the time, and I like to remind people to also to join me in that compulsion of saving the draft. And then you're going to click continue. As you see, everything of interest that you click seems to happen in the upper or lower right-hand side of the procurement. It's a theme. So you're going to hit continue. When you hit continue, what's going to happen is that e-procurement is going to go through your entire application and kind of scan it. And then you're going to get a series of error messages, because I don't know if anybody's ever done this and not got an error message. So I'm going to go through the 2 most common error messages people get, just so that if you see them, you'll know. And so it will be, you must quote on at least 1 line in the RFQ. So this error message, that would mean here, for this, you'll see right below there's this lines. You click on the lines. In this case, we require that you do a budget that you upload. Lines is e-procurement wants you to put in placeholders for the budget lines. So you don't have to put your budget in there. You can if you want, but you don't have to. You just need to put some kind of placeholder number that is not 0 into the lines, and then that error message will go away. Here is another very common error message that you get, the very cryptic, a quote value is required for the requirement first name, and that's e-procurement speak. So a requirement in e-procurement is basically the application questions. The specific application question first name is the one that they're asking you about, and quote value is a fancy language or fancy term for answer. So what they're basically saying, and with quote value is required for the requirement first name, is you didn't put your first name in the box, please do that. So then you would go, you put your first name, which will be less than 4,000 characters, into the box and be on your merit way. So once your application is free from errors and you are ready to proceed and submit. So at this point, clicking continue should put your application into this review and submit phase. And at this point, you can actually scroll down your entire application and review it and to confirm it's accurate. If you need to go back and change stuff, if you see an error that e-procurement didn't pick up on, this is your last chance to really go through everything, make sure it's all the way you want it to be, and see all your responses, all your attachments, everything you need to, everything. It's like a whole review of this application's life, right? And so you'll review. At the very bottom, it's a very long screen. At the very bottom, you're going to see this electronic signature on the, mixing it up, e-procurement. It's on the left-hand side. And you're going to put in your name and your title, and then you're going to click the box. If you are like me, click the box first, you get an error message saying that you have to put your name and title in there first. So put your name, your title, and click the box. And then going back over to the right-hand side, which I can't actually fit on the screen and still have it be even possibly like a little bit legible, you'll see this submit button. And the submit button is, you'll then submit. You'll also see here this printable view. This is an opportunity for you to get a PDF of your application. So remember how I said once you hit submit, your application sort of gets whisked away. So you get the printable view, you can see the application questions, you can see your answers, and you can have it as a PDF or frameable, no doubt. So you're going to hit the submit button. After that, you're going to get a submittal confirmation screen. The e-procurement will send a confirmation email to you within 24 hours of your submission. Often ends up in people's spam. But if you're also a person that just wants that extra verification, feel free to call or email me, and I'm more than happy to confirm your submission, your successful submission. Literally, the second you push submit, I can see your application on my screen, and I am more than happy to let you know or send you a screenshot that I can see it, if that makes you feel better. And so there you go. So you'll get this confirmation screen, and then you'll get a confirmation email. You can call me to confirm, and then you can go on to whatever the next thing is. So now is the time for questions, and I see we have a few more. And then this is just, if you have program questions, Christine is the woman to speak to. For non-programmatic questions, you want to talk to me, or you can go to OBM. And let's get started with some questions. So,
hey, Julia, I saw a question before that I think I wanted to address. Would food vouchers allowing participants?
That was where we left off.
Okay. Okay. Food allowing participants the autonomy to prepare their own meals be acceptable. Our hotel rooms have kitchens. Somebody has a hotel room? Wow. Yes, that will be acceptable. We want to make sure that vouchers are given for 3 meals per day. We want to make sure they're giving ample amounts for 3 meals per day. So if the hotel room within the city of Chicago have kitchens, yeah, that's something that can be negotiated with. We want to make sure there's no issues with kitchens and no damages, but yes, I think food vouchers would be acceptable. Okay, I'm sorry, Julia, go ahead.
No, that's okay. That was the first question. And then the second one is, how long can clients be in the program or in the motel?
So it's working as a shelter. So you will work with them to see what their barriers are to housing. We will definitely let you know closer to the time that the funding is running out when the clients must exit, but you're working to get them into more stable housing and working on their barriers. We don't have like a time limit, but you will be interacting with them, providing case management to put them in more stable housing. At no time at the end of the program, we will work with you to try and place within our regular shelter system. So
those are the questions that we have for now. Are there any other questions that people would like to have answered here? Maybe we'll give everybody a couple of minutes to come up with questions. Were there any things that came up for you just in reviewing these questions, Christine, that you wanted to add?
No, I'm just looking to see. We're very excited. This has been successful. A motel partnership within our DV community. We do encourage you. I know part of our focus group that we had to seek agencies who may have some kind of experience with hotel negotiations. Attached to, we had an appendix attached to the RFP, which talks about like different points to touch upon with the motels that you engage. So make sure you read the RFP thoroughly, and please reach out to me if you have any questions. We're very excited about this opportunity. Again, this is a part of our winter contingency plan. So we really want to make this a successful program, especially for our most vulnerable who need those additional beds to come out of the cold. So thank you very much. I'm just looking to see if there's anything else, Julia.
Questions. So obviously, you can keep asking your questions to Christine. She's basically devoting her holiday season to this RFP. I have her phone number and her email up on the screen. It's also in the RFP document itself. So you can keep asking your questions. As we indicated, we're going to be working on a webinar, the FAQs for the webinar, which will be posted as the amendment, which is you have to wait through 18 screens to get to. But that will be posted as soon as possible. I will say that realistically, that will probably be early next week, just because of the holiday. But other than that, I wish you all a wonderful holiday, safe and happy rest of November. Stay warm. And thank you so much for coming today and joining us and learning about this program. We're really excited about it, and we're really looking forward to seeing your applications.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Take care.